Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be going through Sun Wukong. I'm going to be going through his kit, where I think he's going to be useful in the game, and why I think he's an important champion to have built out and ready to go. Sun Wukong was a login, 7-day continuous login champion, so he's free for everyone, and I think today is the first day that anyone could have got him. So I think there's no better time than now to talk about him and why I think he should be used, really. I think he can be really useful for sort of mid-game and early game especially. I think for late game he has his own uses, but I think they're very niche and very particular, whereas I think early game and mid-game I think he's going to have a lot more sort of places he could play and places he can sort of help out your different teams. Before I get into that though, guys, I just want to do a bit of housekeeping. Over the weekend we had a ×2 on each of the different shard types, and I didn't pull a single shard. I've done it before and I absolutely emptied all of my reserves of all of my resources for shards, and then the next fusion or fragment came up and I was on empty and I couldn't do the summon rush or the champion chase, so I didn't pull any of my shards, so I'm ready for the next fusion. As you can see on my Galek account, I've got 16 sacreds, 30 void shards and 27 ancient shards, and I plan on just keeping them growing, so I'm ready for the next big event that might happen. I feel like these weekends are really cool and they're really good, and it's really nice to pull all of your shards and see what champions you're going to get, but at the same time it does empty your resources and makes it harder when they've got a fragment or fusion, and anyone who's watched my channel before knows that that's what I play the game for. I rely on my fragment and fusion champions quite a lot, so they're what I aim for: a free champion, loads of resources, loads of gear and stuff like that farmed in those events, so I just see them as a plus when a fragment or fusion comes on. So that's what I save my shards for, and that's what I like doing in the game. So also in terms of housekeeping, guys, Clan v Clan starts tomorrow, so if you've got any resources or anything like that you save up for Clan v Clan, tomorrow is the day to use them. I personally am going to start building out and hopefully finishing my Emic trunk cart on my Galek account in particular. So on my Kale account I use Ninja as my damage dealer, and Ninja has an increased turn meter on his A1, but because I use 2 Helicaths who both have a 2-turn unkillable, the increased turn meter on Ninja's A1 doesn't take any effect. So I've worked it out in the calculator in the Deadwood Jedi calculator, and it doesn't matter that he has a slight increased turn meter on his A1. But because I use Warcaster on my Galek account, I use Warcaster and Helicath, the Ninja outruns the unkillable that Warcaster gives. So with Emic, if I can book out his A3, then I can have a 2-turn unkillable, which means I can use Ninja and have a lot more damage in my clan boss team. Both of them are 1-keying Ultra Nightmare clan boss, but I want to see more damage, and I can't have one of my accounts outdoing the other necessarily. I like to keep them sort of level. So having a 2-turn unkillable champion to slot in will be perfect for me. So that's exactly what I'm going to be doing, and hopefully I can slot Emic in and get more damage out of my clan boss teams. So back onto Sun Wukong. So I'll go through his kit and I'll just see where we sort of stand, what his gear's all about, and where he's going to be sort of focused in the game. And guys, I just want to say, if you enjoy my content and want to see more of it, please like this video and subscribe to my page. Subscribing makes an absolute huge amount of difference to me and proves to me that I'm making content that people actually like and enjoy. In my last video I talked about having around 95 subscribers and my biggest milestone being 100 subscribers, and I'm currently at 107 subscribers, so thank you so much to anyone who subscribed after watching that last video. It's made a huge difference to me, and it's really an achievement that I never thought I'd get to. So because I've hit that achievement and I know it's possible, my next big milestone is 120 subscribers. So with 120 subscribers, I know that I'm making content that people enjoy and people want to see more of. So if you like my content, like this video, subscribe to my channel. On his A1, he attacks one enemy, has a 50% when booked chance of placing a stun debuff for 1 turn. This chance increases to 50% if the target has any buffs. So I assume you don't need to book this skill. If this is already at 25 and it increases to 50%, you don't need to book this skill, but I guess it becomes more consistent if you do book him, so it's always going to be a 50% chance, which is really high for an A1 stun, and it's really high and really useful for somewhere like Arena. And then on his A2, he attacks one enemy, will ignore 50% of the target's defense, will attack all enemies with any surplus damage if the target is killed, A bit like Dracomorph does. Dracomorph does exactly the same thing. This attack will ignore 50% of the target's defense. This attack cannot be critical. So I think they put in the cannot be critical just because it would be bonkers if it could be crit, and you could level it up with crit damage, for example, because then that surplus damage is just going to be insane, especially if the enemy only has a sliver of health left, and then you're going to put all of the surplus damage onto one of the supporting enemies. If the initial target survives, places a sheep buff on them for 1 turn, this debuff cannot be blocked. So he's the first champion in the game with the sheep debuff. For anyone who plays any sort of arena or anything like that, a sheep debuff is a blessing, and people are using it a lot in arena to sort of CC the enemies. So this will be the first champion that can actually place sheep rather than it being a blessing. On his A3, attacks all enemies, before attacking, steals all buffs from all enemies, then places a block buff debuff on them for 2 turns. And then on his passive, which is actually, his passive's an interesting one. I don't know if it's going to be used that much. I don't know if arena battles sort of last this long, but revives this champion with 100% HP and 100% turn meter 3 turns after they were killed. So I don't know, I haven't played him yet, I haven't built him out and played him on my actual accounts, but I'm assuming that'll be 3 of his turns, or it might be 3 turns in general in the fight. But either way, if he's going to be based in arena, which I think his kit suggests he's going to be a really good arena champion, I just can't see my arena fights especially lasting long enough that he's going to be useful to be revived after 3 turns. And the sort of revival meta is kind of blocked by block revival champions. So I don't know how useful that's going to be, but it's always worth a shot. I'm sure people within the community are going to make some really cool teams with Sun Wukong, and it'll be really interesting to see. But for my account personally, I can't see that revive being that useful. And then on his aura, he has a speed aura for all arena battles for 28%. So I think this champion is arena through and through. You know, he's got stuns on his A1 to stun either a damage dealer or a support champion. He's got ignores 50% of the target's defense on his smack on his A2. And then on his A3, he can remove all buffs and place a block buffs. So he can counter someone like a Duchess or a Sifi, and then he can just wipe them out with his A2. So I guess the sort of turn order would be A3 to remove all buffs and place a block buffs, and then an A2 to make sure that he takes out the enemy damage dealer. But again, if there's no block revive in there, I think that could be quite challenging sometimes, especially in lower end arena. It might be different in platinum arena and you've got really good gear to support your champions, but I'm in gold 5 and the revives don't really matter. I don't really use a revive tactic because the fight is over so quickly that I don't have time for a revive. But I think this champion is really good for arena, especially live arena for countering people. The only thing is he's going to need accuracy for a lot of this. He's going to need accuracy for his A1. He's going to need accuracy for his A3, not his A2 because it cannot be resisted, but on his A2. So I think you've got a bit of a juggle on what you want to do with this champion. Either you want him to be an all-out damage dealer and use that 50% ignore defense, to absolutely wipe out the team or wipe out the revival or wipe out the damage dealer, whatever it's going to be, or you build him with accuracy and it becomes more of a support champion. And I don't think many people in the game, even some of the higher end players, they don't have the gear to support doing both at the same time, to be a damage dealer and a debuffer. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I personally believe. And that's why I think he will be used in really niche teams, teams that are based around him as a champion for high-end arena, for end-game arena, for platinum arena. I think he'll have teams built around him to suit his kit. Whereas I think in early game and mid game, he might become more useful because you can either build him out as a damage dealer or you can build him out as a CC'er, as a support champion. And either way, he's going to go into your team and actually play quite a pivotal part of the team. So for me personally, I have a speed lead, decreased defense, and then a CC champion, and then a damage champion. And that is generally, on both of my accounts, how I base both of my arena teams. And that sort of meta of those arena teams might not really exist anymore. It might not be the sort of the meta But it works for me, and it works for just farming through my arena coins every day and getting enough points to upgrade my Great Hall. I by no means upgrade my Great Hall very quickly, but I am seeing quite a lot of gold in my Great Hall. I think everything in my Great Hall is currently gold, and I'm just working on getting it to the highest level gold I can. So for me, he'll either go in as the damage dealer in that comp, or he'll go in as the CC'er in that comp. And at the moment, I'm using Freeze as the CC. I'm using Yakal on one account and Shiramani on the other account, because they've got 100% freezes. So they can freeze out whatever champions don't have enough resistance, and then my damage dealer comes out and finishes everyone off, especially the people that don't have any buffs on or anything like that, or anything to counter the freeze for sure. And then we can just clean up any of the frozen champions that took less damage because they were frozen, and then the rest of my team can just mop them up and finish them off where needed. But I think Sun Wukong coming in as a damage dealer, as a damage dealer for that A2, he can do that absolute smack on his A2, and if it doesn't kill, it will turn the enemy that you're trying to kill into a sheep. So either it's an enemy damage dealer or it's an enemy support. So if it was a Seafeet or a Duchess that's keeping the team alive, or a Pythion, for example, that's keeping the team alive, he can come in and sheep them. They lose all of their debuffs. I think they lose all of their debuffs, and then the rest of your team can take them out. Or he becomes a CC'er through and through, and he's got his stuns on his A1 and his remove buffs on his A3, so then your damage dealer can come in and wipe out the team. So I think that juggle comes early on in the game anyway, and then as you progress through the game, you can make more niche champions for more individual purposes and roles within your teams. So for me, for example, I'll probably build him out as a damage dealer first, test him out as a damage dealer. At the moment, I've got Hefrak in one team and I've got Georgid in the other team. So, I mean, both of those champions are really high damage dealers, and I'm not sure if Sun Wukong will actually out-damage them. I don't know. I haven't seen on other content creators that have worked all of this out, worked all of the numbers out. I haven't seen if he outclasses those champions, but Georgid is an amazing champion and can ignore Stone Skin or can fight through Stone Skin, and Hefrak just does an all-out AoE attack that just takes on any team. Unless they're all completely built out with Stone Skin, Hefrak can take out the team, and it's really, really fun to watch him taking out those teams. So I don't know if Sun Wukong's going to be able to do that. So, sort of all in all, I think Sun Wukong is a great champion. I think he's got some really unique utility to his kit, and I think the big brains of Raid Shadow Legends will absolutely find a really cool use case for him. But for me, on my account personally, I don't have a use case for him right now. I definitely am going to build him out. I'm going to level him to 60, and then I'm probably going to put him to the side until I can find a better use case for him. I've already got my damage dealer. I've already got Georgid. And Georgid is a perfect example. When I first got him, I thought, oh, I've already got a damage dealer. I don't necessarily need to build out another one. And I think I was using Foley at the time, which is, you know, Foley's got his own utility and he's a really good champion. But Georgid hits way harder. And I just thought, you know, I'm farming arena. I don't need another damage dealer. And then I built him out and used him. And I realised I absolutely had to put him in my arena teams. And especially in my main farming arena team, just for him to be able to combat Stone Skin. And I did exactly the same again with Ultimate Death Knight. I didn't use him. I'm not very competitive in Arena, and I wasn't using him in a traditional sense like everyone else was using him. And then I realised that he's really good for Doom Tower hard waves for combating the Mortu Macabre waves. So he suddenly found a place into one of my main teams and one of my main focuses in the game at the moment, which is trying to beat all 3 rotations of Doom Tower. So I absolutely think that the same thing might happen with Sun Wukong. I'm not going to use him for now, but I will build him out, and then one day he might find a place into one of my main teams. For all I know, this ability, this revive after 3 turns, is going to be really useful somewhere in the game. It might be for Shogun, it might be for the Sand Devil or something like that. But I definitely think he's worth building, and I definitely think the high end of the players of Raid are going to find really good use cases for him. So definitely keep up on the news of Sun Wukong and what's going on with him. But that's all I really have to say about him. I think he's going to be a good champion. I definitely think he's worth building. But for me personally, right now, I don't have a place for him. Hopefully you get some sort of interesting information out of this, and maybe you can figure out a use case and let me know. And if you do, absolutely write in my comments and tell me that I'm wrong, and tell me that there's better use cases for him. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.